So good morning everyone, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew, also known as the Aardvark, on camera with me for this morning's drive. And on Wendy is Steph and Brian, and they've set off to look for those lions that they were looking for yesterday afternoon on the Sunset Safari. So we have Tara and Jess in FC, and Eugene is always working on the technical side of things. And I hope you are all excited for what is proving to be quite an interesting sunrise safari already. This is one of my favorite things about being out in the bush, is that I certainly didn't expect, when I was on my way down through one of the most regularly used roads, to come across a breeding herd of buffalo. Now the block is very, very thick. I'm not sure how many we've got here. I would say probably well over 200, but that's a very sort of minimal guess. I'm sure there are more in there. There's lots and lots of noise coming from this area. You can hear them crashing through and feeding, but there's plenty of them around. And it is a rather chilly start to this morning. That's why they've all been sort of cuddled down and sleeping together. It's 13 degrees centigrade, which is 56 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in that part of the world. So still feeling the effects of winter, even though we are sort of starting to see the first signs of spring. The mornings are still just that little bit chilly. I'm still feeling it a bit, still wrapped up in plenty of layers. But what a cool way to start the morning with this large herd of buffalo. It's been a while since I've seen them. And when we started out the show, there was a shot of that female with a collar. Now, apparently, she has been seen before. I'm very curious to know who has collared her and what they are studying about her. I'm sure it's to do with herd movements, especially now that it's a very, very dry season. There will be plenty of researchers curious to see how that all works. So, interesting morning ahead of us. We are a live safari, so we are right now in Djuma, in the Sabi Sands, looking at this breeding herd of buffalo. And it's also an interactive safari. So if you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make, you can do so on hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@WildEarthTV. And for now, we're going to spend some time watching what these buffalo are up to. Very, very cool sighting. You can see a lot of them, when we first drove up, were still very much asleep. Some of them have got up and they've started ruminating. You can see that regular movement of the jaw, and just chewing on the cud. I'm still trying to get an idea of numbers. There's a lot of these very, very big bulls, like the one at the back there. You can see his very solid horn base, also known as the boss. It's fairly dented and rumpled from years of fighting. And then a whole mixture of the various females and ages. Got a female there with the sort of the hair between the horns, much less solid horn base. And then sometimes it's easiest to chew whilst resting your head on somebody else's back. Looking very, very comfortable. Nice, easy way to start the morning. So we're just having a look at the various buffalo that are part of this herd. There are so many of them, and just off to the right here is that female that I was talking about with the collar on her. There you can see that would be a radio transmitter, and it would allow people to keep track of their movements. An ex-ranger from Tasmania, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. As always, it's great to have you on board with us. and you would like to know how it would be that they would get that collar on her. And the answer would be probably with definitely they would have to dart her and put her under anesthetic, and they'll use a drug known as M99 or one of those derivatives, and it would have been done by a professional vet. Those are the only people who can do that sort of darting. And it would either have been done from a vehicle or from a helicopter, probably most likely from a vehicle. And the way that they would choose which animal to dart, they would not pick up one of the older males. They'd actually pick one of the older females who would be quite high up in the sort of social hierarchy of a buffalo herd, and one of the ones that's most likely to stay with the herd at all times. And that collar is probably fitted both with the ability to track via radio signals, and it also probably has a GPS transmitter that will transmit maybe once or twice a day the exact GPS location of this herd. And I haven't seen any of the others with it, but that is how they would do it. They'd have to then probably just chase away the rest of the herd, because buffalo, in my experience, I have been on a couple of buffalo darts, they do tend to be very, very curious. As soon as something happens, they all come to have a look. So you'd have to chase them away as far as is safe for the vets to come and work, and then they come and they clip it on, and it's usually something that's done very, very fast. And the animals that are lucky enough to get darted and get the collar, most often they will also get a free tick treatment. So just because the vets do have them there and sedated, they will spray some really heavy duty pest repellent on them and treat any of their wounds, because obviously you want the animal that's carrying an expensive piece of equipment to be as healthy as possible. So although it is a process that might be a little bit confusing for the animal, they do actually get some benefit out of it. And then obviously with all of the research that comes out of it, it can be very, very beneficial. And there we can just see the first rays of the sun peeking through. And I'm very, very glad to see the sun after yesterday and the day before was rather cloudy days. I'm hoping it's going to warm up a little bit. I'm always very strongly in favor of being too hot over being too cold. And a lot more of them are standing now and sort of just casually staring at us and chewing in that motion that we saw a little bit earlier, so that sort of side to side jaw motion. And Carol would like to know why they are doing that and what it is they're doing. So because they are ruminants, like your normal domestic cows, they have a series of 4 stomachs. So they will consume the grass, put it into the first stomach, and that will form it into a nice bolus or a ball, and that comes back up through the esophagus into the mouth, and then they chew it again when they have a moment. So they eat quite a lot of grass, and they do so fairly rapidly, especially whilst on the move. But then when they do have a moment like this, where they are stationary and not really up to too much, then they will bring it up and start to chew it again. And that sideways motion, because of the way that their molars are structured, is kind of the best way of really making sure they break down that grass and just break it down as far as they can before the rest of the digestive process happens. And when it does come out the other side, it is very, very finely digested, much more finely digested than, say, something of a zebra or an elephant that doesn't have quite the same efficient digestive system. So they are ruminants in much the same way cows and other antelope are. There you go, you can see one there just casually chewing side to side. Oh no, don't stop chewing. You can carry on, please. We wanted to see you do it. Here we go. That sort of circular motion of the lower jaw. So, whilst that one finishes up that particular cud, if we just move slightly to the left, there we've got a sort of sub-adult who is about baby just under a year old. And typically, buffalo do not have an exact set breeding season in the same way something like impala do. So they won't give birth all at once, but there will be a very, very strong, favorable peak for the rainy season. So anywhere from November till about March will be the time that they start to drop their calves. I would like to say I've never seen a young baby born in the middle of the dry season, in the middle of winter. I would never say never. There are a couple I did see earlier, I can't see one now, but there are a couple of fairly young calves, but even the youngest I would say is about 4 months or 5 months old. So still that very high peak in the rainy season, which makes sense because that is your best time for resources. And this little one here is demonstrating a little bit of the phlegm and grimace. It was a rather lazy effort, but I think that's just because it's lying down. Could be a young male actually, but one of the buffalo just to the left there is urinated, and then that buffalo responded by pulling up its top lip and scrunching up its face and just drawing that scent right into the top of the mouth. And they always look very funny when they do that, but it does serve a very important purpose. I think that one might think about doing it as well. No, not as interesting a smell. And that could be because it's just female urine. It's obviously not too interesting to this particular female. But that face that they pull, that phlegm and grimace, does serve a very important purpose. And that's actually one of the prettiest female buffaloes I think I've seen in a while. Very, very good looking girl. She's got perfect horns, not looking too shabby. Oh, it's a young male. That explains why it went to scent mark. Got to look a little bit closer. And breeding herds of buffalo do tend to be very, very curious creatures. They do like to stand and watch you and try and decide what you mean to them and what kind of effect you're going to have on their lives. There we go, we've got another perfect example of the phlegm and grimace. Just testing the air. And it always does look like such a funny face, but it's such a good way of pulling that scent into an organ that is highly, highly specialized. Hello, big boy. Nice big old bull. And he stood and looked at us for a long time before he decided to move a little bit further forward towards us. And I think now he's going to veer off to the side, just making sure that we're not any kind of threat. I do love buffalo herds because there's always different individuals to look at, and when you've got such a nice age selection, it's really, really useful. Now this old bull, it's difficult to see the condition of his teeth, but I would say is somewhere in the region of over 8 years old. He's very, very big and solid. He's got a nice big solid boss at the top of the horns, and as throughout his life he goes through that constant chewing motion. Anna Marie, you are correct, it will grind down his teeth, and it's probably one of the best ways of trying to get an age on buffalo is just to have a look at the condition of their teeth. They do start to get worn down and slightly cracked, but interestingly not in the same way that elephants do. Now elephants are largely, I'm just going to shift so we can have a look at that one who's having a scratch over there. Now elephants need to eat far more than buffalo do, proportionate to their body size, and that is just because of their digestive system. And that's why their teeth wear down far faster than something like a buffalo's does. That one's had a nice scratch on that tree. It's a great way of ridding yourself of all kinds of ticks and parasites, and buffalo do carry quite a few of those, but he's obviously feeling better now. Hey, big boy. And I do love the way they sort of half look at you as they go past, and really lumbering walk. They don't really have anywhere in particular they need to be. It's just a matter of walking to the next food spot. And we've got a whole load of them in front of us now, just standing in front of the car, and they are chewing and ruminating, as we were talking about before, and also just standing staring at us. They can't quite decide what to make of us. And Lucy, you've actually picked up on the fact that the jaw in some of them moves one way and then the other way in others, so they kind of rotate in different directions. Now, I don't know if I think it's more likely that they probably just rotate between the two, so they either move from left to right or right to left depending on their mood. I don't think that specific individuals favor one chewing motion over the other, but I'm not sure, because that's actually the first time anybody has pointed that out as an observation to me. So very, very interesting. From now on, I will be looking at the way that they chew. I think they probably just favor one side of the mouth and then the other side, just to keep the wearing down of the teeth fairly even. You can hear them grunting and groaning. Buffalo breeding herds do make quite a lot of noise, and that, of course, as always, attracts lions to the area. So I'm wondering if there aren't any lion prides around following behind. It's always a good opportunity. I think somebody just got in another buffalo's space there. Just a little bit of conflict. And that's very, very common, those mooing sounds in buffalo breeding herds. They just get in each other's way, and they're slightly irritable creatures at the best of times. But obviously most irritable would be the adult bulls, or the Duggar boys as they're known, especially when they're on their own. But we've got quite a collection of them in this particular herd. You can see them pushing and shoving each other. They do very much get into each other's space. But Tom, you would like to know if we could sort of estimate the ratio of adult bulls to adult cows in a herd like this. And thinking about it, it's probably somewhere in the region, and it obviously will vary from herd to herd, but probably somewhere in the region of 25% to 75%. So 25% large males, maybe even as low as 20% large males, and then the rest of them will be not just adult cows, but also sub-adults and calves. So that would be a sort of very rough estimation from my point, and it obviously will vary depending on the herd and where they are. And what will often happen is some of the big sort of bachelor herds that we see of Duggar boys will, when a herd like this moves through the area, they might link up with them for a while and stay with them and then decide to move on. So it's a system that is constantly in flux, but generally, as with most animals, they tend to have quite a large skew in terms of females versus males. So guys, we were talking a little bit about the fact that buffalo herds like this often bring lion prides to the area, especially when they make those mooing sounds. And I'm sure you have been wondering what Steph has been up to. And in fact, he has found a pride of lions on a buffalo kill So we're going to send you back across to Steph. I'm probably going to head out on my way and see what else I can find, and I will catch up with you all a little bit later.
Hello everybody, and I thought that it would be a good thing to start on what we left off with last night as an indication of how easily even a person with 16 years experience in the bush can be wrong. This was the last view, or one of the last views we had last night. We were on a vulture last night. This is a hooded vulture, and I remember distinctly telling everyone that there wasn't a possibility for there to be anything in the area because there was only one vulture, and that wasn't leading us to any sign. And have a look how wrong I can be. And here we have a pride of lion lying on a dead buffalo, and they've been here for at least 24 hours lying without anybody even knowing what's going on. That buffalo carcass is being fed on by the Nkuhuma pride. They've managed to sneak into Djuma somehow, kill a buffalo right near where we stay without anybody realizing it, and stay hidden for a full day. Can you believe it? There's Junior, very content cat. He's been watching the sunrise this morning, and he's been watching the arrival of vultures in ones and twos to this position. You can see his fat belly there on the left hand side. Evident those huge forearms of his. It does some action around the carcass there. So what's happening over there is, as the meat is starting to finish, the choicest pieces, they're starting to wrestle for those prime spots around the carcass. You can still hear the growling happening. Can see her force of her growls, shaking her head. Now, it's not an angry thing, that they're just fighting for food. They're not angry with one another. It's very typical of lions to squabble over a carcass. You can see Junior's come to have a look. Now that noise carries quite far. And there's no presence of the Matimbas here. It's just Junior and the rest of the pride. And we have some flat kitty cats that are it's a humbling experience to be proven wrong so many times. I quite enjoyed yesterday. It was just one of those days where everything that I would have done and said yesterday would have been proved wrong. So it's no wonder that we made a bold claim that because there's just one vulture there was no lion kill, when it's evident that there was everything except that going on. And you can see we've got a lioness lying in front of us in the sand. She moved off of the carcass probably about 5 or 10 minutes ago to come and lie down on the cooler sand. A very full belly. Now, the meat that they eat generates quite a lot of metabolic heat, and they can get quite warm. And I've no doubt that she came to lie down on the sand because it's a bit cooler than the grass which she was lying. And also provides for a nice pillow. Where is she going now? The last couple of minutes we've been hearing roars coming from further south of here. Definitely 2 male lions. I can only presume that it's the 2 Matimbas. Are lying up or on the move from further south, and not too far, probably about 500 or 600 meters. And that little squabble that you just witnessed now, that definitely would have been within hearing range of those 2 males. And if they're hungry, if they're not lying on a kill of their own, there's every chance that they'll come and join in the feast. 2 experienced lions like that definitely won't pass up on the opportunity for a free breakfast. Big yawn. And this pride is proving itself to be quite the buffalo hunters. I must be honest, we've seen them on 4 buffalo carcasses. I think 4 buffalo carcasses, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but within the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've killed 4 or 5 buffalo. And it's just a measure of how lions adapt to the most dominant or the most prevalent prey species in an area. Lions generally have a prey range between 50 and 250 kilograms, which is wildebeest and zebra and kudu range. But in areas where those numbers of those game is quite low, they will hunt whatever the most dominant prey source is in that area. In this area, old male buffalo, they're just plenty. There seems to be a buffalo around every corner here. In places like the Chobe National Park, elephant have even become quite adept, or lion have even become quite adept elephant killers. But generally not normal. Buffalo, big, fast, angry, full of horns, can kick, can stomp on a lion. Definitely a very dangerous quarry to pursue. But these guys have obviously figured out the trick. I don't see signs of much of a fight having been put up by the buffalo, so I can only surmise that it happened pretty similar to that kill that we filmed all those weeks back, where they chased the buffalo into this area, anchoring it. One of the lions would have jumped onto it and anchored it, and then basically they just would have worn it down to a point where it would have been lying now where you see it. They don't look like they've moved it very far. I can see some tummy contents behind the carcass, so they haven't dragged it anywhere. This is where it all went down. Probably the night before last was, if I were to guess at the state of this particular kill. And literally just 2 or 3 days after they managed to finish that buffalo carcass on Arathusa. Time of plenty this year for lions. They definitely have their best time of the year now, starting from about July all the way through to November, beginning of December. Lions have their best time of the year. It's when meat is readily available and hunting is at its best for them. As summer progresses, when all the other animals start getting healthier and start to spread out into the bush, lions find it very difficult to get along. They start hunting over massive distances, and to find prey is hard because the bush is very thick. The prey is sparse. It's definitely not concentrated around watering points or the last little bits of good feeding areas around. It's dispersed into the bush. And animals are all healthy. They're fit, they're alert, they're not having their heads in bushes for most of the day. They've got time to sit and to ruminate and to watch their surroundings. And so you find that by January, February, lions are definitely in their worst condition through the year. So something that I haven't touched on right now is the fact that this is the first time we're seeing the Nkuhumas since they had their encounter with the Birmingham boys a few days ago. And Ramey and Dr. Debbie have asked, can I see any noticeable signs of a struggle or a fight? And I can happily say that Junior is in tip-top condition. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with him. And none of the other lionesses from the position that I'm in right now are carrying any noticeable scars. Now, I am seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 females and a male. As far as I know, this pride was 6 females and a male. But it would be interesting. So I can definitely see 5 females, 6 females. So I've got 6 females and a male. Now for those of you who are very familiar with this Nkuhuma pride, it would be interesting to hear what your thoughts are on whether or not the lioness that was killed by the Birmingham boys on Torchwood was one of the Nkuhumas, as was initially thought.
Yes! Go, quick, quick, quick. Hi guys, sorry to interrupt you like that, but we do have a honey badger. I'm going to try and stay with it. It's my first honey badger. We do say a big apology for that, but it's totally worth it just to be able to see this little guy. I'm going to try and stay with it. I've been fortunate enough to participate in a sort of rehabilitation and release of a honey badger cub, and watching that entire process was so cool. I'm going to just loop around, see if maybe we can get one last glimpse of him, but it was totally worth it just to be able to see an animal that we hardly ever see. So that was really cool. So exciting, and he was such a surprise. Such ferociously brave little animals. They are famous for such ferociously brave little animals. They are famous for I think he might have disappeared off. Now the really cool thing about this is when I was driving up and down this road yesterday with Brian, I noticed a lot of honey badger tracks up and down the road, and I didn't stop to point them out because they had been sort of driven over, but I could tell that there was definitely one living in this area. So that's really cool, because now we know that there is at least one of them denning somewhere here, and he will be heading back now to disappear off into his burrow, which will be something like an old aardvark hole that he's just excavated. And I think he's disappeared off into this block. It is very, very thick, and I'm not going to go crashing through after him, but just so totally worth it to show him to you guys. Really, really awesome, ferocious little animals, and they've got that incredibly loose skin that whenever they are attacked, they're actually almost able to turn themselves right around and bite and attack with those ferocious little teeth and those sharp claws. And they've got the most amazing sort of symbiotic relationship with the various birds in this area. Obviously the most important being the honey guide, because the honey guide is one of the few that's able to digest beeswax. So they will lead the honey badger to a bee's hive or a wasp's nest. The honey badger will break it open. They're fairly impervious to the stings, and then the honey guide gets to consume the wax that's around it. Really, really awesome little animals. So we do apologize for that rather sudden transition, but so worth it to be able to show you even the briefest glimpse of an animal that I've hardly ever seen in the wild, and certainly this is my first time seeing one here on Djuma. But now we know we need to be on this road early in the morning, or just as it starts to get cool, especially as it is still nice and cool. It is still sort of the end of winter, so we've got a far better chance of seeing him. Awesome stuff. What a good way to start the morning. That was very, very cool. I've just got the sun starting to peek out over the termite mounds. And it is so nice to see the sun starting to peek over the top of that termite mound. As I said, I did participate in that sort of release of or the raising of, and then subsequent release of a wild honey badger cub. And it was awesome to see. He was taken on regular walks, and the instinct just kicked in. He learned to forage on his own, catch birds on his own, and even after he was released, he'd still sort of return every now and again to say hello. But he was not treated as a pet in any way. He was just sent back to the wild where he belonged. So really cool sighting. Again, apologies for the quick sort of cut across to us, and I'm sure you'd like to get back to Steph while I attempt to refine the road, because I wasn't really paying attention to what direction I was going in. So I'm going to send you back across to Steph, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, luckily for the honey badger that popped out of nowhere, and well done on seeing that. That's definitely a nice surprise to crash to. Sorry about the crash, and it happens when something exciting like that comes onto the screen. We have to show you. And it gave us the opportunity to move into a slightly better position so that we can show you what it looks like closer to the carcass. And now all the lions are back feeding again. They all sort of joined in the feast. Junior got up and pulled the carcass over, and he's stuck his face into the meat that lies between the ribs and the skin. We were busy discussing, as you left us in such a hurry, we were busy discussing, is the lioness that was killed by the Birmingham boys one of the lionesses of this pride? Now, myself and Brian were having a chat about the dynamics of this pride, and he said that the pride was at a time numbering 11 individuals and has been whittled down over the years. So it's quite possible that the lioness was from this pride, but I do know that there are a few of you out there that definitely have the history of this pride well documented, and it would be nice to hear from you on what your thoughts are. There are definitely 6 lioness here and 1 male. My gut feel is telling me that it probably then wasn't one of the lionesses from this particular pride. But let's wait to hear what you say. You're welcome to send through any of your feedback on Twitter at the hashtag Safari Live, or you can email questions at WildEarthTV, and we'll try as hard as we can to get as many questions answered while we're sitting around this buffalo. I'm very glad we moved the car. We're out of downwind position, and so myself and Brian can start breathing with our mouths open again. It was a smelly affair where we were parked last. So Ross, Michelle, Brenda and Mike have expressed a bit of concern over the lioness with the amber eyes, and is she with the pride at the moment? That's the one that we think was killed by the Birminghams. From where I'm sitting at the moment, it's going to be difficult to see, but we'll definitely keep an eye open. Absolutely. As soon as we've got confirmation on whether or not she's here, we'll pass the news on. It's not uncommon for lion numbers to fluctuate, adult lion numbers to fluctuate. Lions kill one another quite often. It looks like there's a scuffle going to break out here soon. The one lioness wants to eat still. Let's have a look. We can see two eyes now of the lionesses on the left hand side. I still don't see any noticeable scarring. And the first cat that I looked at when I moved in here today was Junior. He would have borne the brunt of any attack that the Birminghams had directly on this pride. And the fact that he hasn't been chased off or chased out says to me that they didn't really catch him. Prominent bite marks across the lumbar region of the spine. See the one lioness, she does have a bit of a scar. One lying down on the left hand side, but it's an old wound. So bites to the lumbar region of the spine, which is just above the hips, and to the top of the head are common killing bites in lions. That's where lions bite one another to inflict the greatest injury. She's lying down on her breakfast. Too exhausted to move, too desperate not to lose her claim on that particular piece of meat. And still following on the note of lion numbers fluctuating because of pride takeovers and starvation and injury, Ramey has asked, do these lions miss one of their teammates, one of their family, since they have such a deep bond with one another? Would they be missing one of their numbers? Have a look at that. Ramey, the answer to that question is, in my experience, no. I've never seen lions pine for any member. There we go, a little bit of discipline happening. That's one of the reasons why Junior is going to be kicked out, is he's getting big enough, as you can see there, his bulk is big enough to actually start dominating a lot of the lionesses here, including his mother. And that'll start eliciting challenges from the mother, and that'll start in turn eliciting challenges from his father. But there's still some time yet, so don't stress too much. Have a look at Junior giving us the eyeball there. Now, while we were just talking about Junior, Derek from New York has asked how much longer before Junior gets kicked out. And Derek, it's a good question, but it's also it's a difficult question to answer. We've seen Junior over the last couple of weeks trying to cover one of the lionesses that's obviously coming or has come into estrus. We also see him dominating kills like he is at the moment. He's starting to act like a dominant male lion. He's starting to really start exhibit adult lion traits. And that will definitely be seen as a challenge from male lions in the area. Now, what will happen is at about 2.5 to 3 years old, Junior's mother will come into estrus. Because Junior at that time will be exhibiting or is exhibiting dominant male traits, he's going to try and, or he'll be receptive to that, and he'll try and cover his mother. She will obviously know that this is the wrong thing. She will aggressively rebuff that because he still is a young male lion. Because she's in estrus, she's going to be sending out all the pheromones and signs that she's ready to have another litter. That will in turn generate a response from any dominant male in the area, who will then fight for her attentions. Usually it's the most dominant male in the area that gets to her first, that she will hook up with. But at that time, Junior will be seen as a threat to this male. He will aggressively defend the mating rights. And what will happen is, between his mother rebuffing him and the dominant male rebuffing him, he will move to the pride's edge, of their territory. And this will in turn put him in to conflict with other male lions. And it's all part of the natural cycle. This will have a knock-on effect. He'll be moved from one area to another, staying out of big male lions' way, scavenging where he can, hunting where he can, and eventually, when he's about 5.5, 6 years old, he'll then be big enough to actually fight for a pride of his own. Or hook up with another nomadic lion. You know, he's a single male lion in an area that is usually dominated by coalitions of male lions. But not every area in the park has a lion pride. Lions, as World Lion Day on Monday put into focus, their numbers are drastically decreasing. And lions at the moment are on the verge of becoming endangered. They only occur in national parks, and even in national parks their numbers are starting to dwindle in some areas. And it's in one of these areas that I expect a single male lion to set up a territory, at which point he'll become quite attractive for any nomadic females. It's not uncommon for lions and female lions to have no pride. In my time in the bush here in the Kruger, I've seen it 4 or 5 times where single lioness have hitched up with nomadic males and started a new pride. And it's how areas without lion prides get re-established, or how lions get re-established in an area without lion prides is probably the better way of putting it. Now, while I've been droning on about that, I'm sure that we've had a chance to see almost every one of these lionesses' eyes.
This one here on the right is the end.
And the one on the right I've just confirmed, and it's just been confirmed with Brian, that she is the one with the amber eyes. So the lioness with the head in the carcass on the right hand side, the one that's in the center of your screen right now, I can say is most likely at this time the amber-eyed female. Which means that the Birmingham boys killed another lioness from another pride, or a nomadic lioness. Which is, there you go. And you know, I'm glad that we've managed to show you that lioness. I think you must be feeling a sense of relief. That it is, although we need to find out what lioness was killed. But while myself and Brian debate that ad nauseum here in the back of the car, we're going to be sending you through to Jamie, who's got a tall guest to show you. So we'll see you in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
So guys, welcome back, and apologies for the interruption. but it seems as though those lions are not going anywhere, so we just wanted to share this really beautiful giraffe just in the stunning morning light. And she's been very obliging. She let us get nice and close and actually then moved a little bit closer to us, so we've got this fantastic view. We can really see that spot pattern beautifully. Unfortunately, what she did do was tuck her head behind the tree just as you came across to us, but they really are one of my favorite animals. They're so beautiful. And always fascinating to watch in the way that they eat, the way that they wrap that incredibly flexible tongue around. We've got a little female here. She's beautifully highlighted in the morning light. There is also a male off to the right of her, a little bit further away. And just a beautiful view of two giraffe enjoying their breakfast. And I know that you were chatting a little bit about how the animals in this area, their movements are going to change now that it is getting drier and drier, and they're going to have to start searching further afield for good quality vegetation to get the nutrition that they need. And that will apply to giraffe as well. They will have the same problem. There is that female's eating. You can see that it's just the last few leaves left on that tree, and they're not looking particularly green or healthy. But one advantage that giraffe have that many of the other animals don't is that because they are browsers, they're going to be able to take full advantage of the first trees that start to get the really nutritious green leaves, and those are the knob thorns. So in the next month or so, maybe in the next month and a half, all of the knobthorn trees in this area are going to start to go green, and typically it is the elephants and the giraffe that get the most out of this. The rest of the browsers, such as kudu, will often follow behind the elephant herds and wait for them to push down the knobthorns, and you do see a marked increase in how many knobthorns are pushed over by elephants. So these giraffe do have a nice advantage, as do the elephants, over the next month or so, but then it very much depends on the rainy season. If we have a lot of rain, then their movements will go back to normal. Giraffe are not territorial, so they kind of cruise about wherever they want to. And as always, there is the ever-present fork-tailed drongo, here to take advantage of the insects being kicked up and disturbed by the giraffe. I'm not sure what she was trying to accomplish there. She's trying to reposition the branch so she could get to the leaves. And we've seen with this giraffe in this nice morning light and with the male behind her, both of them are fairly dark in color. And Colin would like to know if this is indicative of the sort of age of giraffe. Well, Colin, welcome to the Sunrise Safari, and I hope Johannesburg is not too cold at the moment. I am really glad I didn't have to experience that particular high-felt winter. Colin, yes, giraffe do get darker with age to an extent, especially the males. You'll see the very, very old bulls are nice and dark, but there's also a genetic factor in that. So just like we have different hair color, so giraffe will also have different spot colors. So you can't use it as a way of exactly determining how old the giraffe is, because different ones will start off with different shades of darkness and will get darker as they age. So I have seen some young giraffe that look fairly dark, and that is just a genetic aspect of it. So, Deborah, you tell me that this is a giraffe that we've seen before, and I'm very, very impressed. Apparently, according to Deborah, there is a peace sign around her bottom. I didn't notice that, but that is really interesting information, and it just goes to show that although we spend a lot of time IDing the various animals in terms of leopards and lions, we actually could spend some time IDing things like giraffe. So very, very cool. So as these giraffe move off and enjoy their morning breakfast, we have shared a really nice sighting with us. I'm sure you are keen to get back to the action at the buffalo kill, and I am on a mission to head across towards Arathusa. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye to you all, and I will be back with you a little bit later. Enjoy your time with Steph.
Well, welcome back, and I'm glad that you moved over from the giraffe back to us. We've nothing much has changed. They're still busy enjoying their breakfast, and I'm just sitting over here relieved that we've been able to give you some good news this morning. Not so good news for the buffalo, but definitely good news for those of you who have got a connection to this pride. And if you hear some crashing off in the distance, it's just one of my colleagues is approaching, coming to have a look at the kill. There's a hooded vulture that we're going tight onto over there. Myself and Brian were talking about, there you can see that blue eye. That's a male hooded vulture. If you can take a screenshot of that vulture and zoom it in, you'll see, although the iris is quite big, it's still quite dark here in the valley. They have got the most unbelievable blue colored eye, like a turquoisey blue. Indian Ocean desert island blue type color. So Georgianne, Raisa, Pretty Nightmare have confirmed that all the members of this particular pride are here, even though 2 members of the pride have been killed in the last, or since February. The current pride dynamic stays unchanged. So the Birminghams have definitely had an effect on this pride, but it is not. They did not kill one of the lioness that we feared it might be. This one on the right hand side that's got the amber colored eyes. That is James's favorite, and I'm sure a lot of favorites out there. But coming back, I just want to confirm the fact that it's very common for lions to die. There's not anything that preys on lions out in the bush except for other lion. So although they're not cannibalistic, their numbers are controlled, they're self-controlled. And one of the ways that Mother Nature keeps lions in check is by making them quite aggressive around pride takeovers. And although I don't expect there to be much resistance, it's also not uncommon in the Sabi Sands for male coalitions to come into the area and have an effect on prides. I know when the Mapocho males came in, they ended up devastating a few prides while they cemented their dominance over the area. So we can expect to lose a few more, but let's hope not too many in the course of it. Have a look at looking into this buffalo's chest cavity. Just an enormous chest cavity. Now it would be so wide because it houses that massive foregut fermentation system that the buffalo has to digest all the grass that it's eating. And there you're looking towards the head. That brown mass where the spine ends is where the esophagus and the trachea would have entered the body cavity. You just excuse me for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to be on the radio. Yours to come in for Steph? While we're busy watching where these lions are feeding and to try and decide why they like their tastiest morsels and basically where they start first, you can see that the inside of the buffalo is eaten first. There's no evidence of any of the soft tissue, and you also notice that those ribs form quite an effective cage around those tasty morsels, which only really permit a couple of lions at a time. And very often what the younger lions will do is they'll move to the face of the lion, of the prey, and start feeding on the face. Now Cindy has remarked on that. Why do lions always tend to eat the cheeks and the nose off of the buffalo that we've been watching first before they move on to the other parts? And Cindy, I would like to say that the bigger lions would definitely take the prime spots around the belly area, whereas the younger lions would go for the next best thing, which would be on the exact opposite end of the fighting that's happening. And there you have the cheeks and the nose, which are quite soft and probably quite tasty. And quite often you see younger lions or sub-adult lions going for those tasty morsels on the front of the buffalo, while the rest of the pride fights over the more nutritious, softer organs inside the belly. And once that's all done, then they're sort of all spread out around the carcass, eating the hindquarters first, moving then from the back of the carcass forward to the forequarters, and finishing off with the neck area. On buffalo, that is. It doesn't always. Kudu and impala, they just tend to take a piece and run. And you'll notice from the light on the lionesses that it's actually quite open where we are at the moment. They're not sitting in deep shade. Although we're in a bit of a valley, they're not in deep shade. It's open around them. Not a lot of bushes. They've got the carcass in the open. And that means that there should be a lot of vulture activity around. But there's not that much vultures. You can see not too many trees. Enough trees for there to be clouds of vultures. But there aren't too many vultures around where we are at the moment. Now, the reason for that is because yesterday was very cloudy. Yesterday was a very overcast day. And there were not enough thermals generated to get a lot of vultures into the air. And so my gut feels telling me that because there weren't so many thermals, there weren't so many vultures in the sky. Because there weren't so many vultures in the sky, you didn't get these massive funnels of vultures around kills. And so it hasn't attracted. So only really the vultures, the smaller vultures, that could get up without thermals, the hooded vultures, and perhaps one or two whiteback vultures that I've seen here. But definitely not a lot, and I think it's simply because of the fact that that there weren't too many thermals around here yesterday. Now, if you just excuse me just on the radio, one more second, we just got to try and get someone in here. They're wanting to come and see, so I'm going to be busy on the radio. Enjoy what you're looking at. Excuse me yakking away. Yours coming. Oh, sorry about that. I'm just on air at the moment. Exactly the directions that Texan just gave you. If you come south from the dam, from Djuma Dam on Twin Dams, the first prominent two-track that you get about 400 or 500 meters south of the dam, you'll see the vehicle tracks turn in there. Follow the vehicle tracks. They're quite prominent for 300 to 400 meters, and on the banks of the Mulwati you'll get two vehicles visual with the animals on the far bank. Copy that. You're welcome just to make your way in. And Diana is the other station in this position if you can't get hold of me. Excuse me, not Diana Kersey. All right, so I'm back with you. Sorry about that. We're quite far into the bush where we are at the moment, and it's just giving everyone a proper update of where we are and what we're doing and who's all here. See, this lioness is just topped up her tummy and is now breathing very fast. You can see that belly full of meat is really pushing on her diaphragm, and that's why she's giving those short panting breaths. What amazes me is the amount of meat that these animals can consume. They've got a fairly fast metabolism. The reason for that is that meat can become poisonous in your system if it's there for too long. So lions have a very big initial part of their small intestine. So their tummy goes into a really big small intestine, and there nutrients is extracted from the meat very quickly and very effectively, and it moves through the digestive system then quite quickly, and that's to just reduce bacteria counts in these animals' bodies and to get rid of meat that is rancid and has no further use. But it does mean that they can pack away an unbelievable amount of meat in such a short time. They can literally eat 25% of their body weight at a sitting, and you'll notice that every so often they'll go and lie down for a while, sometimes up for an hour, and then come back and just top it up again. We can go if you're happy to. Have a look at that. Now, what you may or may not have picked up from the audio of this particular sighting is the fact that there has just been lions roaring to the southwest of where we are at the moment. That's why they picked up their ears like that. I was just listening while same as what you were, the same as the lions were, at least. Anyway, I was listening to see if I could locate a point of where those calls were coming from. They're not coming from too far away, and it sounded like more than 2 lions. I would almost hazard a guess that they were those 5 Birmingham boys, and not the 2 males that we heard roaring a little bit earlier today and closer to this position, which is quite interesting. You know, modern technology is amazing. While I'm sitting over here watching some lions eating on a dead buffalo, we've got the camera on at Gowrie Dam, and we just want to say thank you to all the Zoomies for updating us on the hyena saga. Apparently, for those of you who weren't watching the webcam, a hyena went into the water and was missed leaving the water, and created quite a stir in the fact that everyone thought that this hyena was drowned and was lying in the mud below the surface. But it seems that it was missed. The hyena did actually get up and leave, and is not lying there dead, which is a good thing. Ooh, and if you excuse my scrunched up face every now and again, there's one of the lions that just passed some of the buffalo through their digestive system that we were talking about right now. And judging from the smell, if this was in my body, I'd also want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. It is eye-watering, the smell at the moment.
The nose hairs singe a little.
Yes. Brian is battling as much as I am where we are. Oof. Tara has just let me know that there's some debate on how many lions are here at the moment. I just want to confirm that there are definitely 7 lions here at the moment. 3 adult or 3 females and 1 male. So definitely 7 lions at the moment. And Chris has just asked an interesting question, and you know, coming back to my comment a little bit earlier about the dwindling lion numbers worldwide. Now, Chris, some of the contributing factors to that are basically man's expansion into wilderness areas. Communities are getting bigger as healthcare in Africa is improving, and these communities live off of the land predominantly, are subsistence farmers and fishermen. And as these communities expand and their need for food gets bigger, or the volume of food gets bigger, I should say, people are expanding in ever greater numbers into these wilderness areas and are coming into ever increasing contact with lion. And the inevitable outcome of man-lion interaction is always the demise of the lion. Lions are big and scary. They also enjoy eating livestock, cattle, which is how Africans measure wealth. And so when a lion kills, firstly scares somebody and then kills steals your money out of your bank account essentially, steps are taken to mitigate that risk. And lions are trapped and poisoned and shot and persecuted all over Africa for this reason. It has been happening for tens of thousands of years. It's nothing new. It's just literally just the amount of people-animal interactions have been steadily increasing at an astronomical rate over the last 30 to 50 years. And lions are now almost exclusively confined to wilderness areas where people are excluded. So in areas where animals are given the right to live and where people are not allowed to live. But that takes us on to another topic, in that in South Africa we have a big fence around all our wilderness areas to stop the animals from getting out and hurting people and stealing livestock, and also to stop animal-borne diseases from entering the national herds, which help feed all our people. But in the rest of Africa, wilderness areas are demarcated by a geographical boundary only, latitude, longitude, points on a map. And right adjacent to these boundaries of these national parks, you have what they call game management areas. And inside these game management areas, people and animals coexist. Animals and people are given the right to utilize this area. And here you have people that are allowed to hunt for certain things to help feed them. So you can get licenses to hunt. You can also get licenses to collect bush medicine, to collect firewood. Animals are tolerated in these game management areas, and they're managed in these game management areas. Primary form of this management would be hunting in areas where you can't have photographic safaris, or because of the seasonal variation in water or temperature, tsetse fly, everything else. But we're quite lucky here in this part of the world where game reserves have got a very clear boundary, and people live right up to the edges of these boundaries, like literally right onto the fence. But where people do not have this grey area. I don't quite know which one I like best. I've had some wonderful sightings with people and animals coexisting. And I think it's really, for me personally at least anyway, it's really the only way that conservation can work in Africa, is a coexistence rather than an exclusivity. Joshua in Texas has asked a nice question. I'm sure all of us have asked ourselves at one point or another. Why are the lions the king of the jungle when it doesn't seem like we're in the jungle at all? It's a good question there, Joshua. I don't actually know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. Because lions don't occur in jungles at all, not even in India, where you have lions living right up to the boundaries of jungles. And in Africa, there are no lions in jungles either. Lions are really just savanna cats, or grassland and fringe grassland cats. They don't really even like hunting in mountainous areas. They really just like plains, grassy plains, and drainage lines like you see them at the moment. But I think the reference would probably come from the fact that lions are the most dominant of all the predators out here. There's nothing that preys on a lion except other lions. They are termed tertiary predators because of that. Apex predators is another term that you could use, very similar to a killer whale or to a great white shark. And I think if you had to go and do a bit of research, or we had to go and do a bit of research, it would probably come down to a cartoon or a song that was made when we were kids, with some reference to the king of the jungle and a handy catchphrase, which just sort of has stuck, very similar to how the Lion King has made millions of followers of Africa and Africa's animals out of people who never would have even believed that there is things possible like that. Yes, this lioness on the left hand side is going through the sternum and through the base of the rib cage. The breastbone is what she's busy eating or trying to get at the moment. And just the power that she's able to exert, that bone there is probably about as thick as my forearm, probably a bit thicker. And there she's going now onto the far side shoulder. She's eating underneath the shoulder blade on the far side shoulder. Look at the way she's forcing her head in there. I mean, her whole head is inside that carcass. Definitely not a good thing to look at if you're feeling a bit squeamish, but nonetheless, it is an interesting thing to see. She's moving that entire carcass. So Marianne has asked, is it true that what we're watching at over here is a cut, tear and swallow action in the way that these lions like to eat their food, and there doesn't seem to be much chewing going on? And you're 100% correct there, Marianne. Lions don't possess any molars. They don't have any need to break down the meat into smaller pieces to allow for effective digestion to happen over a long period of time, as is needed in plant cell digestion. So animal cell digestion doesn't need that chewing into a finer substrate, so that digestion is more effective. Lions literally bolt down what they can in case they get chased off of a kill. So they cut and tear huge chunks of meat out, get it into their bellies in case it gets stolen from them. That way at least they would have gotten enough food to carry on. So you're quite right in your observation over there, in that they cut and tear and swallow without chewing and let their digestive system take care of the rest. Then that follows on to a nice question from Jim, who wanted to know, well, lions eat everything, including the bone, the hair and the skin. And yes, the skin on a buffalo, apart from the hair, is actually quite nutritious. It's the largest organ on the buffalo and weighs a couple of 100 pounds. A couple of 100 pounds of meat that these lions have access to. And you can actually see that lioness on the left hand side, the one that was crunching through the bone there. She's using her carnassial shears. It's teeth that are situated just behind the canines to actually cut through the skin. You can see that white fatty layer. That's how thick the skin is. There by her nose, that's the skin. Can you believe how thick that is, eh? The skin is the black part, and then there's a fatty layer that's underneath that, and that's what they're accessing. So nice demonstration to everybody about lions feeding action, using those carnassial shears, which are basically just teeth specifically designed for cutting, and then eating the skin to get further into the carcass. And as you'd all know, when you eat this much meat, you have to drink some water. Kurt in Switzerland have just asked, when are they going to go and drink, or don't they need to drink some water? And the answer to that is absolutely. They'll drink if water is available. They don't necessarily need to drink though. Lions are not water dependent. They can get all their moisture needs literally from the stomach and the skin and the intestines of the animals that they kill. So they're not water dependent. They will drink if water is available. And it's in actual fact how we found these lions. These lions all of a sudden popped up at Djuma Dam yesterday for a drink. And it was our zoomies that alerted us to these lions having a drink at the dam, that there were lions in the area. Otherwise we would never have found these buffalo. And from there a tracking escapade happened, and these lions were eventually found very close to sunset last night. Actually, in fact, at sunset last night. So they'll drink when they can and when water is available, even every day. But they're not water dependent. They don't have to drink. They get all their moisture needs from the prey that they have.